Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for listening to Chat with the Chief, the podcast. I'm your host, Chief Rex Troche, coming to you from east of the Rockies, the Sarasota Police Department headquarters. Before we get started, make sure y'all are following Chat with the Chief on whatever app you're using to stream or whatever you can get notifications on. And with that, let me introduce our special guest for this episode, our Marine Unit, Officer Michael Skinner and Officer Ron Dixon. Thank you guys for coming here today.
Thanks for having us, Chief.
Yes.
Now, usually I start off with an icebreaker, but my understanding is you have your own warm-up, which I'm glad this could be edited.
Okay.
So what's the warm-up?
Officer Dixon and I would like to ask just a couple questions on how well you may or may not know the Marine Unit.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
This is a change.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So just a couple short questions.
Okay.
Pretty easy. The first one here is, which Marine officer is a published children's author?
Oh, let's see. Published children's author. And it's, are you my choices, one of you? Or is this kind of a trick question?
It is one of us.
I'm going to go just simply based on his sensitivity. I'm going to go with Ron Dixon.
That is,
Okay.
you are correct.
You
are
ding.
correct.
Can you put something in there?
All right. Ron?
Very good.
All right. Wow. I like how you've turned the tables here.
Okay. Next question. Whose favorite artist is Alanis Morissette?
Alanis Morissette. I'm going to go with Michael Skinner.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
That's
He got two right?
Okay.
Next question here is, which Marine officer was born and raised in Sarasota?
You.
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Yes,
Yep.
That's because everyone here knows you. And
Yes. Okay, that's
I hear
good.
about it all the time.
Yeah, great. Not
Mike Skinner, he's a great ace.
okay. That's good.
Okay.
That's good. I'm glad, folks out there, keep it up, please. Last question: where do the Marine officers vacation every year around this time?
The Keys.
That's correct. Oh man,
He knows.
Yes, he knows.
I did get off for it, didn't I? Yeah. Just want to tell everybody out there that you cannot do a riding along with these two captains, although you'd probably be laughing the entire time. They are exactly who they are appearing to be on this podcast. They're just really good people, hilarious, and sometimes a defense mechanism, right, guys?
Yeah,
depending on the situations. And I know you guys have seen a lot. So what I'd like to do is let's jump on. You were born and raised here, Mike.
Yep.
Give us a little bit about it, your background.
All right. Grew up in a large family, one of 7 kids. Spent a lot of time, obviously, at Siesta Beach. I think the story goes is I'd be there on the weekends with my mom with a bottle of Gatorade underneath the beach chair and come back, a little sun and sand in the hair. And growing up, just a lot of kayaking, a lot of fishing, a lot of swimming, and spent a year out of state in college, came back at USF, worked downtown at the Ritz-Carlton, was a bellman there, and took a criminal investigations and procedures class. Believe it or not, Ed Brodsky was the professor, so this goes back in early 2000, and part of the program was I had to do a ride-along with a local law enforcement agency. Did a ride-along with the county, and I saw these blue and white cars zipping around, and I said, "Who's that?" And the deputy said, "Well, that's the Sarasota Police Department." And I was like, And 19 years later, here. So.
That's great, man. We're lucky to have you. How long were you at Ritz?
4 years from the grand
years.
opening to 2005.
Did you go to their ambassador school?
We are, ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, So.
It shows that you went to ambassador school, that's for sure. Well, thanks for being here, man. I've known you for a long time, and you've done only great things at this agency, and everyone speaks so highly of you. So
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Now, you, Ron, on the other hand, give us a background.
So I spent a lot of my childhood moving around. I'm a Navy brat. I have one older brother, Jim, who's a computer systems analyst up in Tampa. And we were born in Connecticut, but spent most of our childhood in Sunnyvale, which is northern California, and then from there over to Hawaii, over to the Keys, then back to San Diego, and then back to Connecticut again. So a lot of moving. I think we went to like 11 schools in 12 years, something like that. So it was pretty challenging at times, but had a good time. And my brother and my mother actually moved to Tampa when I was living in Los Angeles, and ran out of money out there, so I came back here. Came and met with them in Tampa, and that's where I met my wife, Kimberly, and been together ever since. We were actually in an apartment community in Clearwater, and then the people that owned that, my wife Kim was working as the apartment manager, so they built these apartments down here on the university called the Tuscany. And we moved into those as they were being built. And at that time, I decided, I got a lot of law enforcement in the family. My grandfather was a city cop in Pittsburgh, a bunch of cousins, uncles. So once I got over to the Tuscany, I decided to put myself into the police academy, and started out with Longbow Key back in 1998, and then decided to move over across the bay to the city of Sarasota, and be here 20 years in September.
All right. Well, there's a lot to unpack from there. There's a lot of things that I was like thinking, like, well, that makes sense. I didn't know that. One of the things I'm going to ask Mike Skinner, I'm going to say, do you know who was Officer of the Year at Longboat Key 2 years in a row?
Tough question, but I hear about it about every other weekend.
I know, right?
He reminds me. He's like,
about
do you know it? Yeah, he asked me the same question and my same response, Officer Ron Dixon. You know, so.
Of course. Yeah. I remember those days. I remember Ron when he worked out there. So
Yeah.
The other thing I kind of want to unpack and go back a little bit, L.A.
Yep.
What were you doing in L.A.?
Actually, I was expressing my creative side. So, and as you all mentioned earlier about my book that was published, I was trying to do the old screenwriting thing. So I love to write. Like being creative like that. So, like I said, ran out of money.
Just not reports.
Yeah.
He has the best reports. They're so detailed.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So many adjectives. Just explains a lot. Like you always come across as very California, too cool for school, chill, and it definitely shows. And I think that's awesome that it's like we all had other lives, right?
Yep.
Like we will look back 20 years ago and we're like, God, I was not even doing this 20 years ago, and I had intentions to do this and that. Yep. And I think that's what's really what makes you all special, because you bring that to the table. You bring all those life lessons and failures to the table, and then you kind of impress upon people in our community with your talents, because you guys are definitely both talented. I mean, if I was an agent right now, I'd be flying you guys out to LA. There's no doubt in my mind.
Thanks.
Let's talk about some upcoming things. So let's talk about our Marine unit. So what do we have? About 6, 7, 8 boats and captains, and it's like Miami Vice out there. I mean, paint everybody listening a picture.
All right. You know, we jokingly have a motto that it's tan lines and good times, but it's really so far from that. It's a lot of hard work. You know, we have 2 boats, 2 full-time officers, and you know, what's different than the patrol that you may see in a patrol car is that you know, we're constantly you know, our vision is got to be 360 degrees out there. We got to know what's on the water, what's in the water, be familiar with weather, tides, updated boating laws, questions, concerns people have, whether it be about federal questions with chartering boats, to city ordinance questions.
Or can you pet a manatee? That kind of stuff.
Can I feed a dolphin? I think in the beginning of my career in the Marine Patrol, it was so important to know what's inside the boat as far as safety equipment, but being now out there for 8 years, it's important to know what's underneath your boat as well. So working with other programs, whether it be from FWC, Coast Guard, DEP, Mote Marine, finding out what's important and why preservation is important for the wildlife out there. So safety is our number one goal, promoting it, and then just also providing the information of, why is this manatee zone sign posted here? What can happen? It's not only about the civil citation, but it's about the wildlife as well. So,
yeah. And give us a footprint out there that you all patrol around.
So our boundaries are by the airport at SRQ. We come all the way down to the North Siesta Key Bridge, a little bit south of that, out into the Gulf. I think jurisdictionally it's probably about 300 feet, but the county and the state are all working on trying to get an actual, like a 3-mile jurisdiction out there. But Officer Skinner and I are both deputized, so if something happens outside of that, we can already respond and take care of that. Half the bay is ours from New Pass. The east side, all the way up to the airport, is ours, and then on the west side is Longboat Key. So we got about 42 miles of coastline that encompasses. The Sarasota Police Department is graced with 2 boats. They are a 24-foot yellowfin with a 350 motor on the back, and a somewhat newer 36-foot yellowfin with 400s on the back. So those allow us to patrol the bay and offshore for offshore rescues very effectively.
I'm sure there's a lot of boaters listening to that description who know boats that are so jealous that you get to be on those boats every day.
There really are what we need to do offshore rescues with. We greatly thank WCIND, the West Coast Inland Navigational District, for their support in our rescue endeavors as well.
Yep. And majority of the rescues that we do have are in foul weather, so having the bigger boat for the offshore stuff, and then of course the smaller boat for the shallow water stuff. It's been actually, we assisted Venice Police and Sarasota County Sheriff's Office with a stolen vessel, and they actually asked for the shallow water boat, the 24 yellowfin, because the stolen boat with the suspect in it was in a shallow water boat, and they were both in larger boats. So we got to participate in the recovery of that vessel. So
I'm sure they appreciate our assistance in that. We have great partners in Venice. WCIND.
Yep.
Just kind of talk about what that stands for, the acronym, and then what they do for us.
Sure. So that's the West Coast Inland Navigational District, and they help us out with our vessels, purchasing our vessels, and all of our equipment that we use on our dive team to help in the removal of derelict vessels. And
we write 2 grants every year, one for funding of the Marine Patrol, so while we're out on the water, they provide the funding for us, and then the rapid response and removal with the dive team if we have navigational hazards. Any of the equipment that we use is funded through WCIND, and any taxpayer will find it on probably the last line. You'll see a millage rate down there, and so it's the listeners here that provide us with the ability to do our jobs and save lives, protect the property at the same time. So
we have a great partnership with WCIND, and we probably couldn't do a lot of what we do if it wasn't for their partnership. So,
absolutely.
Because you two have not only been able to build a relationship with all those agencies that you just mentioned, but you've also been able to build a relationship with the boating community, right?
Yep.
Which is, that is a tight community, right?
Yeah, sure. We help out. We got Freedom Boat Club, and then the Marina Jack Rentals. We all have all their cell phones, so if one of their people get into a bond on the sandbars or something like that, we're always there. Somebody had rolled up onto the beach just yesterday, and we go over there and check on them, make sure that they've called Freedom, and make sure that they got somebody some help coming for them.
Yeah, I probably get the most emails about you two, just really and good ones. By the way.
Close one.
I guess we'd hear about it if it wasn't.
But just about the extra effort and extra time that you put in to help people, even at the end of your shift, you're going out there and you're staying with people until CTO comes or trying to mitigate any issues that they're having. So, again, thank you for doing that. So, what are some of the challenges that we're seeing day in, day out on the water right now?
I would say lack of education. It seems like, people will just come out and jump in the boat and act like there's absolutely no rules whatsoever. You know what I mean? They're either they don't know about the signage, or they're oblivious to it, or they don't take the time because they got so much else going on, which is understandable. So that's why we like to educate, way before we actually write that citation to them. Education goes a long way, and you can tell when somebody's responsive to it and they understand it. You take the time to explain why this is a slow speed zone, because there's only 1.5 feet of water here and the manatees cannot get out of your way, whether it's a jet ski or a motorboat. So, and they're like, oh gosh, yeah, I never thought about that. So education goes a long way.
Okay. And then on top of education, do you need to go to 40 hours of boat driving school in order to drive a boat and get a license, and then have somebody sit on the boat, test you, and then you can drive a boat? Is that how it works?
Probably in the future, 20, 25 years from now.
Yeah.
Right now in the state of Florida, the boating law requirements are anyone born after January 1st, 1988 has to have a boater safety course successfully completed. And that could be any statewide or nationwide boating safety ID. Boat US puts on a free one. It's a 4-hour course. And we see it, and things that I think other boaters need to take in consideration out on the waterways is that on a weekly basis, we may spend 5 to 10 hours in our cars. A lot of these weekend boaters may spend 5 to 10 hours actually operating engine time on these boats. So we see it every day, the inexperience, and we just ask, everyone's learning out there to just be patient, and because everyone was at that point, and it can be embarrassing, a lot of anxiety, especially the weekend at the boat ramps. You can see it. Just be patient. But anyone born before that 1988 does not need a boater safety course. So if you're, hey, Uncle Jim, he takes the pontoon boat on the lake once a year up in Georgia, might come down and run a boat, and does that classify what is boating experience? How many hours? So in the state of Florida, just like flight time, you're going to count those engine hours. How many hours do you have on the water? 4 hours, 8 hours a day, but it's the engine time that you have, because that's the experience. You can take a boat and go 20 minutes to a sandbar and spend the rest of the afternoon on the sandbar and then 20 minutes home. Is that 8 hours on the water? So there's a lot more, I think, below the surface than we realize. But
no pun intended.
Yeah.
We have suggested, though, to people born after 88 that, maybe getting a boater safety card not such a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Depending on the violation.
If you ever saw me on a boat, you would see that for sure. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about something that's a hot topic here in the city of Sarasota: derelict vessels. What can we let? I know sometimes people see a derelict boat sitting out there, and they see it sitting there for long periods of time. But what they don't realize is the process has been started, right? And then not only is the process started, but then there's court appearances before a magistrate that have to occur, and then sometimes there's extensions. So who wants to hit on that one?
Yeah.
Who's the derelict vessel PhD?
We both are. So the thing that stalls a lot of these investigations is finding out who the actual owners are. So the registered owner, 9 times out of 10, is not the current owner or whoever was the current owner. So it's up to us to do our due diligence and to find out and track these people down. We send out certified letters. We visit their last known addresses. We talk to people in the community to see, who owns that boat or who was last on it, because, there's property on it and it's getting ready to sink. So we need to get it out of the water as soon as possible. But just tracking down the owners and waiting for these certified letters to get back is a huge obstacle for us, because we can't really even start to attack the problem unless we get these letters back that shows that we did our due diligence to try to get notification to these people, because maybe they're sick and are in the hospital, you know what I mean, and they just don't have time to get out there, but they can send somebody out there to get the boat back in good repair and then get it out of that derelict state.
And so unlike buying a car, right? If I buy a car from you, we're going to go down to DMV, we're going to take the title, there's going to be a transfer of title, right? But with a boat, potentially there was a sale, and maybe that boat has been in that other person's possession for years, right? And it just never registered.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what's important for the seller is that they contact the DHSMV and let them know that there's been a transfer in the title. Civilly, if that boat breaks free from anchor, causes serious injury, death, or property damage, that original registered owner is going to be on the hook for that. And what better excuse than to say, but I sold that 5 years ago. And they're going to have to come up with the documentation of the buyer. Online, DHSMV provides a sale form for vessels and vehicles, and we just recommend to complete that. Contact the DHSMV, let them know that there's been a transfer in the title, and keep that copy with you in case something happens. Just because a boat may show up in the bay and be stored there, it may not necessarily be derelict at that time. But a lot of people, I think, what's important is to understand what a derelict vessel is, and to put it easy, is if it doesn't have safe means of propulsion, or it doesn't have a sound hull, or it's taking on water, or it's aground and it needs mechanical assistance to get off, like the sandbar or land. In some certain instances, like storms, the time period is a lot longer versus if it just breaks free from anchor. If the boat has a sail and it has working rigging and it has a rudder and it has that steering, then technically, if it's got safe means of propulsion, being on a predetermined course without threatening any persons or property outside of that, and they can move that boat, then it's not derelict. Because occasionally we'll get calls, hey, there's a boat out here in the bay, just showed up, and anchoring is a part of navigation. You need to sleep, order parts and things, and sometimes it's just people passing through. And we spoke to a gentleman who was actually waiting on a prescription. He got a PO box and said, I travel all across the nation on the water, and I have a PO box here. I'm just picking up prescription medication. I'm going to be here for about a week and a half. And how his boat was operational, probably seen some better days, but so it's tough. We do utilize underwater drone that we have to get up on a lot of these power-driven vessels to look at the rigging. Is the excessive prop fouling, excessive rudder fouling, so a lot of components to that statute, for derelict vessels.
So, needless to say, you're pretty thorough when you do these investigations, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we don't let them sit there at all. We know what boats are out there, what boats have just come in. For a little while there, we were getting boats dumped in to our bay from Fort Myers. Mm-hmm. So we, immediately tracked them down and did what we had to do to get them out of there, contact the owners. So, but the state, so before they get into that derelict condition, the state will actually take these vessels that are considered at risk of becoming derelict. So before they're derelict, the state, you can actually just hand off your boat to the state, and they have earmarked millions of dollars to take care of these boats before they become derelict and they sink and cause issues.
So if I'm a boat owner and I feel like I cannot financially take care of my boat anymore, I can reach out to the state.
myfwc.com.
Sign it off.
Yep.
Okay. My what?
myfwc.com.
Okay. That's awesome. And then with respect to derelict vessels, what is generally the turnaround once you've found the owner, you've made notifications? Give me a ballpark as far as time, because I think that there's people listening that think it happens rapidly, and I don't really think that's the case.
We're at the mercy of the Postal Service a lot of the times with these certified letters that we send out. I think the minimum amount of time we can probably get a boat out would be 31 days. From the time that they receive the postage and sign the card and we get it back. We had just had one that we removed from state waters yesterday, and it was a 10-month long investigation. There was appeals, and there was a lot of speed bumps across the way. The boat was never brought. The last thing we want to do is take somebody's boat, but at the same time, our roles and responsibilities is protecting the environment and the persons and property in that environment, and we just want people to get in compliance. We understand sometimes ordering parts for a boat takes time, but we just have to make sure that ball is rolling forward. And in this incident, the ball was actually rolling backwards. And but again, 31 days to 10 months, it can be such a wide range, in between. And this one here, we probably had a dozen calls on it. And it actually broke free from anchor at one time. Coast Guard had sent down 2 boats, and they were beginning to start a air rescue search for the boat. And we immediately got on the VHF radio and said, "Time out. We know the owner. We're going to call him." So there's a lot more than just a derelict vessel. A lot of money and manpower can go into it. There's just a standard of care, and we just want somebody to meet that threshold.
I'd say the average, though, is probably 40 to 45 days.
Before, so once notification's been made and boat is removed.
Right. Now, that's not to say if it's a navigational hazard or something, then we will have our dive team come out and raise it and take it over to either safe harbor or just take it out automatically.
I know sometimes we see boats at 10th Street boat ramp.
Yeah.
So what is usually the case there when we've taken them there and just...
Safe harbor.
Okay.
Yep, it's just we don't want to de-rig a sailboat and put it on a trailer and store it for somebody. And at the same time, just facilities for boat storage is limited. So we say safe harbor to instead of us setting the anchor for them and hoping it stays, we know that the boat is secure at a boat ramp, tied off, versus us taking it somewhere quiet and dropping the anchor and hoping that it stays there.
Right.
So we contact dispatch, let them know that the vessel is at this new location. So if the owner comes out and says, "Hey, someone stole my boat," they can run the FL numbers on the vessel, know that it's been moved by police. We'll have our contact information with the boat, so the owner can call us and we can kind of give them an idea of why it's there. So,
all right. So let's change gears a little bit. I'm a new boater. What is the best time of the year to go out on the water as a new boater, and what is the worst time where you may have a lot of novice boaters out there historically?
So historically, 4th of July, that whole weekend, Memorial Day, that whole weekend. Labor Day is not too bad. That's coming up. But I'd say definitely before Christmas. Christmas gets very busy here in Sarasota on the water. So I would say in the fall, it's pretty calm. It's starting to slow down a little now.
and find a weekday.
Yeah.
Stay away from the weekends. If you want a quiet, steady atmosphere and you don't want the excitement around you of a lot of boats, a lot of jet skis, find a weekday just to get familiar with your boat. There's tons of apps out there. No Wake, Weather Channel. Get familiar with those apps. Check the weather and find your weekdays, especially if you're going to trailer the boat. Even practicing, splashing the boat at the ramps, putting it in, taking it out.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that person there that's holding up the line and everyone hanging out of the car windows saying,
I've seen those people.
And Ken Thompson boat ramp's actually a little more quieter during the off season than 10th Street. So if you're intimidated by 10th Street, Ken Thompson's a good option.
Yeah. I heard it's tight quarters, though. I heard you sent somebody there recently.
Yeah. Was it Sergeant Winesbury has some issues?
So let's change gears again right now. If we could do a PSA with respect to boating, what would it be? Let's just do it on the fly.
Right.
So I know you feed off each other. So
How you doing? I'm Officer Dixon with the Sarasota Police Marine Patrol Unit.
And I'm the better one, Officer Mike Skinner.
Today we're here to talk about boating safety and what you need to know before you go out on the water.
Check with your crew, whether that be your kids or family members, that they know where the safety equipment is. You're the captain. Give the boat brief. Let's keep everyone safe.
And let's make sure everything still fits. It might be a while before you get on the boat or had been on the boat, and you don't want to be trying to put a 40-pound life jacket on a 90-pound child.
Stay hydrated, plenty of sunblock, know where you are, bring your phone, keep it charged, know where you are. So in a case of emergency, there's no addresses out there on the water. Find those landmarks and just be familiar with the waterways that you're in, signage.
And always check the weather first.
and remember, when you drive a boat, it's no joke.
Yes.
There it is. Yeah. See, that's how talented you two are. You timed it perfect. You knew how many seconds in between. You guys are the goods, let me tell you. One of the challenges that we've seen too, just having two boat captains, right? I mean, what are you both on the water 24/7? Like, what are your hours out there?
Usually 8 to 6 in the evening, which usually gets pushed back a little bit during the summer. 4 days a week. I'm Monday through Wednesday.
Wednesday through Saturday. So
And then after that we're on call. So If anything big happens, we're there. Venice had 2 plane crashes that were pretty horrific, and we went down there for a couple of days and helped them out. So,
All right. Well, just kind of wrapping this up, I think people will kind of understand that in the beginning. I mean, you guys are as funny as they come, but then when we start talking boat talk, boy, your game changed. Like, Mike, you were using words I've never even heard you use before. And Ron, I mean, you guys just get really serious when it comes to boat safety. So that, there's a time to play and there's a time for business. And I know when you guys are on the water, it's all about business.
Yeah.
And I certainly appreciate that
Yep.
immensely. All right. So with that being said, one last story here. Let's tell a water rescue story with an animal. Go, Skinner.
All right, Captain Hook here, coming to you live about a Chihuahua named Tinkerbell that we pulled from the cool waters of Sarasota Bay. Officer Dixon and I were working an evening shift, and we received a call around 7 p.m. We were over by the John Ringling Causeway. Dispatch had said the fire department had transported somebody to the hospital, and that fire was still on scene, assisting in search of a dog. So we arrived on scene, saw one of the firefighters with a flashlight, and he said, "You must be here for Tinkerbell." And I said, "I guess I am." And I said, "What are we looking for?" He said, "A small Chihuahua had fallen into the water over here at the Sarasota Yacht Club, and it's been missing about 45 minutes. So I took the north side of the marina. Officer Dixon took the south side of the marina. We began searching the docks and things. 45 minutes, small dog. Chances of finding this little girl in the water wasn't looking good. Sure enough, about 15 minutes into the search, I see this tiny little Chihuahua head on the surface of the water, and Tinkerbell had swam over to a piling that had been cut off. It was just underneath the water line, and she was just sitting there kind of doing the look back like, "You going to pick me up or not?" And I kind of pulled up and concerned, being that she had been under some stress, that I was probably going to get bit by this dog, but I thought, well, it's worth the bite, get this dog out of the water. She was super friendly, pulled her from the waters, and began walking the docks. And friends of the owner saw us carrying this little Chihuahua, and it was a good reunion. We were fortunate enough to meet the owners of the dog, had a nice lunch with them, and got another photo with Tinkerbell, the Chihuahua. The unfortunate thing is that no one knew that we were looking for a Chihuahua named Tinkerbell. So when I found the dog, I immediately picked up the radio to tell my partner, Officer Dixon, that I found the dog. But instead of saying I found the dog, I used a 10 code that we use. I said 1012 with Tinkerbell, which means I was in the area with Tinkerbell. So, of course, that radio traffic went to everyone else, and they were wondering what Captain Hook and Peter Pan were doing out there. So, of course, the text messages started coming in, and so that was my mistake. But we learned from things.
Yeah, I think that's all on body-worn camera.
It is all on body-worn camera.
And I think it's all over social media,
It is.
Entertainment
Tonight, 48 hours,
48 hours.
Inside Edition, Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
They even started a new show called Watch My Whip. I'm not sure where that came
Did they
from.
really? Okay.
Well, we actually have crowds outside waiting for us right now.
Yes, the paparazzi.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thanks for taking the time, for coming off the boats to come in here and do
certainly.
this. Really do respect what you both do for the agency and how you represent the agency on the water. So, thank you.
Thank you.
We're excited. This is we're at over 1,000 downloads of our show, so this is really kind of taken off. The idea was to have officers on here, have a conversation, humanize y'all, and just kind of speak to the public and get the message out.
Cool.
And you've done a great job. So I just want to say thanks for listening and Chat with the Chief, the podcast, and make sure you're following us if you're not already. Please live, love, work, and play in our city because we love it just as much as you do. Have a great day.
We had some of our sponsors, Sunkist Tuna. You can tune a guitar, but you can't tune a fish.
Yep.
Who else did you have?
Who's the company? Stay away from shady beaches.
Yeah, Aloha Beaches. No one likes a shady beach.
Right.
What else do we have? Anything else? Oh, what's up, buoys? We should probably scale things back a little bit.
Yeah.
And not give into peer pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the something with the anchovy.
Yeah. Well, like they say, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
The dad jokes. I love it.
Do we still have more time? I want to. No, I'm kidding.
We ran out of tape.